Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. I wanted to shoot a update video real quick, kind of catching you guys up on our Chevelle project, which hasn't been on the channel in quite some time. There's been a few things going on, to say the least, but this car just kind of got put on the back burner, and for good reason. So the project is coming back to the channel, but not in the way that you probably expected. I'm going to go over all of that, explain what all of the issues are, what I've done to try to circumvent those issues, and so on and so forth. Now, if you guys haven't seen the latest 240SX video, I do have the link to that in the description box below. My main focus of that video was building the custom air conditioning system for it, but I also mentioned that that project is finally done. Now, I have a couple other pieces of series content that I want to do. I'm currently getting paint protection set up for it, and of course I got to do the final in-depth review after all of that is done. So I will be wrapping that series up. So as far as the Chevelle, that will be coming back. I'm just not ready to do it, but in the interim, I thought it was appropriate to give you guys this update because it has been a really long time, and I know a lot of people were looking forward to seeing progress on this car, and unfortunately it just didn't happen, and I apologize for that. So without further ado, let's just cut to the chase and get on into it. Now, before anybody gets super excited about seeing fenders on the car, save yourself, because they're only held on by like 2 bolts. I was kind of frustrated a while back, and I just wanted to see what it would look like with fenders again to try to make myself feel better about this situation, and it didn't work. So if you guys haven't seen any of the previous Chevelle videos, I have the project playlist down in the description box below, so you can go back and check out all of those earlier videos. The original plan was to build a pro touring sleeper out of a 4-door Malibu that used to belong to my wife's grandma. So this is one of those projects where I really needed help with it because I didn't know a whole lot about welding and fabrication and just the real nitty-gritty work involved with restoring what ended up being a very rusty car. So anyway, we had good intentions. We had a bunch of sponsors, the main one being Original Parts Group, and we started cutting all the rust out of the car. Obviously, the entire car has been blown apart, braced, gotten all the way down to the bare metal, and it's basically just coated in phosphoric acid solution to guard against flash rusting and whatnot. So the project was being led by somebody else, and the guy was very talented, but there were a lot of things that ended up not being done properly, things that I didn't have any idea about because I was new to this level of restoration. So I was just kind of going off of his lead and recommendations, and we were doing it together, and we had the goal with getting like a certain amount of metal work done by a certain period of time. And of course, that didn't happen. The car had to get put aside for other things that needed to come and go, and it just kind of was forgotten. So a lot of the work was done up on a rotisserie, and while a lot of it was braced, looking back on it, there were a lot of measurements and processes that should have been done that weren't done. Long story short, almost the entire backside of the car has been replaced, but it was not done correctly. For the last couple of years, I've just had a sneaky suspicion that something was really wrong back here, and I finally just decided to put it up on this lift at the end of last year, and unfortunately confirmed my suspicions. So the trunk pan, in short, is welded in crooked or cattywanked or whatever silly adjective you want to describe it. Well, obviously this rear wheel isn't on, but basically the clearance between the tire sidewalls and the inner quarters were not symmetrical. Like I could put my hand in fully on one side and I could not get my hand all the way in on the other side. So pretty big difference. And I was thinking, well, maybe the quarter's warped. Maybe it needs to be reshaped in that area or something, because these quarters are actually not sedan quarters. They're from a coupe that we grafted onto this, and they definitely required a lot of work up in this area, which it never got fully finished. So, you know, just trying to figure out like what could have happened. Anyway, so I basically undid the body off of the frame, left 2 of the bolts up at the front, and I slid the body over to line the gaps up between the rear wheels. And come to find out, the holes, you know, where the bolts go through the frame up into the trunk pan, they're off. Back here, they're off about 1 inch. It's not quite as bad up there, maybe 3/4 of an inch. And so basically the trunk pan is crooked. I'm not sure how well that shows up, but it's a really, really bad deal. In order to replace it, in my opinion, is to completely blow the entire back of the car apart. Just looking back, there were not a lot of base measurements taken. There was not a lot of, there was no test fitting. Everything was done and replaced up in the air. It was never put back on the frame, like to use the frame as a jig or whatever. Literally every single thing was done up in the air, and there was a lot of bracing done back there. There's one brace right there, but just everything back here was completely blown apart all at the same time and not double and triple checked through the entire process. It was just put on the car, welded up, call it a day, and it's not right, not good. Now, I didn't want to make this video to necessarily run the other person underneath the bus, because obviously we never got a chance to go further with this car to discover these issues and figure out a game plan. He and I parted ways a while back. There was a bunch of issues. I've talked about a lot of those issues in an update video I did on our 62 GMC Restomod project, which that has been completed, fortunately, but required a whole lot of backpedaling, and that also is a reason why, for a period of time, the Chevelle didn't make an appearance on the channel. There's just been so much going on between life and other projects coming and going, and so many issues I've had to go back and fix and this and that. It's just terrible. Like, the last few years have been so unbelievably stressful. And then discovering this is absolutely ridiculous. And, I helped in this process, but I didn't know what I was doing. I was working with somebody who knew more than me, and I was trusting that they knew more and knew the right processes. And unfortunately, as talented as they were, we got stuck with a pretty bad situation here. And if you remember back earlier in the series when we were doing all of the floors and the back end rust cutting out and whatnot, the entire underside of the car is completely finished, like pretty, all bed lined and body worked, and just it's gorgeous underneath there. That's probably the worst part of it all. All that stuff was done ahead of test fitting on the frame and figuring out if everything lines up properly. So it's done. Obviously anything in metal can be fixed, but this is a 4-door Malibu that had an original 307. And aside from the sentimental value, which her grandmother wasn't the original owner of this car. Her mom and dad bought it for her grandma in the 80s. And regardless, the car's got so many memories and this and that. And it's just kind of one of those things. Crystal and I had a lot of discussion about this. And, I don't have anybody helping me necessarily, which that doesn't really mean much. A lot of people don't have anybody helping them. But this is so bad and such uncharted territory for me, even though I've gotten a lot more comfortable with rust repair and fabrication and this and that. This car is just another level of atrocious. There's still a ton of things that was never done. Like, Obviously, that whole bottom channel is completely gone. The entire rear window is rotted out. The package tray is gone. The C-pillars inside, they're gone. Underneath this horrible, rotten piece of metal in the middle, it's gone underneath there. There's structure underneath here that's gone. There's cowl panel stuff that's gone. I mean, it's just really bad. Like, in hindsight, this is probably something that we never should have even gotten into in the first place. But I mean, we were naive. I was naive. Like, you live and learn, I guess. I mean, I even went as far as having a company up in Virginia that specializes in making rust replacement pieces for Chevelles and maybe other GM A bodies as well, because nobody makes repair pieces for the sedan's rear window. This is really common on all Chevelles for them to rot out in this area, but the roof line back here is different from a coupe. So between measurements and back and forth and several weeks and whatnot, I had custom pieces made. So I have been dabbling in this car a little bit here and there, just trying to prepare for the day that I would finally be able to get back into this once the 240SX was finished. Anyway, so that was kind of pointless right there. But anyway, so the plan at this point, again, everything made out of metal can be cut, undone, redone, this and that, but with needing to basically cut the entire back of the car apart once again and rebuy all those panels, including the quarters and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it would be several $1,000s. I have no baseline measurements or any reference data to go off of, and I'm sure that stuff can be found online and like reproduction assembly manuals and this and that. But just the time and the effort and the time, like it just I can't do it. I physically can't do it. So we're gonna end up probably holding on to this body for metal parts, because four-door specific stuff is almost impossible to find, like B-pillar structure and all that good stuff. Obviously, we have a tremendous amount of parts in storage to restore a 69 four-door Chevelle. I've got all of the chassis, the brakes, engine, transmission, I mean, wiring, everything. So the easiest thing to do and the most cost-effective thing to do, just crunching the numbers, thinking about time and all this and that, the best option ended up being finding a better car to start out with and just start fresh. I'm not gonna lie, this sucked. This figuring out this whole situation and talking with my wife Crystal and just literally just weighing all options that we could think of trying to save this, to try to figure out how in the world we can save this project, fix the issues, find some other friends that can come help and this and that, and it just kept coming down to, is it worth it? The time involved. I mean, and I couldn't answer that. That was my wife's decision. So here and there, we found other four-door Chevelles that were for sale, surprisingly. You definitely don't see them near as often as coupes. We got really, really lucky one day. Facebook Marketplace, of all things, we found a 69 four-door Malibu original champagne-colored sedan, just like this one, for sale 20 minutes away from us down the road. It was identical to what this car looked like before we completely blew it apart, with the exception of two things. It has a 350 and a different roof. Sorry, too many things flying around in my head. It's a sport sedan. So this car has the B-pillar structure and has all the window frames and whatnot. So the sport sedan is basically a four-door hardtop. It doesn't have any of that stuff. The doors are frameless. Really, really cool looking car. and 98% of it is the same as this. Obviously, the roof being the biggest difference. Some of the things that we got restoration-wise are not compatible, but they're minuscule things at the end of the day. So let me go ahead and pull the other car out of the shop. It's sitting in the other bay, so I can give you guys a quick once-over of what that looks like, and I'll dive a little further into what you can expect probably later this year when I'm able to jump back into the Chevelle series. I'm going to apologize beforehand because this still has the original door buzzer, and it sounds like an angry swarm of bees, but it's kind of annoying and cool at the same time. This thing runs incredible. So here it is, our new starting point. Like I said, this is a 69 Chevelle Malibu sports sedan. It has a 350, 2-speed power glide, completely original except for some updates that were done by the previous owner. Still has 4-wheel manual drum brakes and everything. To be quite honest, this thing is a cream puff. It drives so good, and that was one of the deciding factors with buying this, that we can actually just hop in, turnkey, and enjoy it just the way it is. Forgot to close that door right there, whoops. And yeah, just, I don't have to mess with it. I don't have to do anything to it unless I really need to or want to, until the time where I do a little bit of disassembly here and there and dive into the project and get this thing where we wanted the other Chevelle. So anyway, the general plan is to maybe just finish building the frame underneath the other car, being that it's already been painted and cleaned up and all the suspension and stuff's already assembled. We've got a custom Ford 9-inch rear end for it to handle the power from the built LS that we'll probably put in it, but there's also the option of another motor. So I've got a lot of things to figure out. Absolutely nothing is set in stone, and I want to take my time with this. I need a break, first of all. I'm tired of doing big build stuff. It's gotten too expensive, too labor intensive, and I'm just just worn out. So gonna just enjoy this the way it is for a while. I'll keep you guys up to date on things that I figure out with the build, and depending on how things go, it might be later this year that I start on it, maybe the beginning of next year, and if I'm feeling really froggy, maybe a little bit sooner than that, who knows. But I do have a full in-depth review, really in-depth review that I've already filmed on this car that I will be uploading very shortly, so keep an eye out on that. You'll be able to see this car, all the nooks and crannies, and be able to see just how nice of a car this actually is. Surprisingly enough, this is a original North Carolina car. It was sold in Lexington, North Carolina. We actually have the original window sticker for it, which is pretty cool. And the body is practically mint. It's had some patchwork on the front fenders, and they just left them in primer, which is kind of a shame. But the only other spots on the very inside, the outer wheel arch or whatever you call that right there, inside there's a little bit of a hole. And on the other side of the car, the very bottom of the outside quarter, that little silver part right there, it's got a little spot. Piddly things at the end of the day. And when I go to replace, the back stuff especially, I can just cut those parts off of the other body and not have to buy anything else. So yeah, it does suck, but in the grand scheme of things, money, time, effort, this is the smarter way to go. So here's the motor, in case any of you guys are curious for the moment. Like I said, it's a 350. It's more or less the base configuration 350. It doesn't have dual exhaust. factory single exit exhaust. I think it was about maybe 200 horsepower. Original air conditioning car. Obviously doesn't work, but still pretty cool nonetheless. So when it comes time to building this and pulling the motor and stuff, at least it's got a more desirable engine to try to sell than the 307 that powered the other car. But again, super, super clean. Doesn't really leak that much either. It really is amazing just how similar of a configuration this car is to Crystal's grandma's car. So the sports sedan obviously had the different roof line. That vinyl roof looks really cool. It has been replaced already. The bottom below all the trim across the rockers and stuff, the sports sedan had silver contrasting against the main body color. And I love how open this is. It's so cool. So it's kind of like a coupe, but the practicality of having 4 doors, which 4-door, 2-door, oh, you got too many doors, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about any of that crap. I love stuff that's different. And plus, it's easier to throw your friends in the back if you want to go out and cruise. But I mean, the interior is all original except for that bottom cushion upholstery right there. I'm assuming they couldn't get the original style anymore, so don't like that. So we either need to get rid of that and find that upholstery or make it all match at some point. But door panels, I mean, all the interior panels, the headliner, the dash pad doesn't have any cracks. The worst of it is honestly the steering wheel. We've already got a new one of those. All the carpets are original as far as I can tell. Got big mats in them to protect them. I mean, look at the driver's door panel. Got one little tear on the armrest, which you've got one of those from Original Parts Group as well. I mean, all the restoration parts we got from Original Parts Group. They were our one-stop source for everything that we needed for this project. But anyway, really excited to show you guys the in-depth review. So go ahead and shut this off for the moment, and I'll give you guys a quick look at the engine transmission that we are thinking about putting in this. So option number 1, which the car is already set up for, is an LS swap. So originally we had a 6-liter LQ4 planned for the car, but with my 89 S10 Restomod that I built a while back that ended up being LS swapped, the 5.3 that I had in it unfortunately had some defective parts inside and basically ate itself up. So it needed to be redone, or the motor needed to be pulled and redone. I needed to get the project finished and sold, free up the money to move on to something else. So being that the Chevelle wasn't being touched and hadn't been touched in a really long time, my wife let me take the 6-liter from that, put it in the S10, we got it sold and moved on. So I ended up having the 5.3, this motor, from the S10, completely rebuilt, much better parts, upgraded some other things at the same time, and it turned out nasty. This thing is awesome. So obviously I've got it completely decked out exactly the same way we would have done the original Chevelle engine. All black accessories, Eddie Motorsports accessory drive, all of the Go Fast bits, fun stuff from Holley, Terminator X, PCM. I can just keep on rattling. Let me just fire this thing off real quick. So this will be a phenomenal engine for the Chevelle. Option number 2. So I've got an LS-based 4L80E transmission that, again, was supposed to go on the back of the 6-liter. The 5.3 and how it's configured now is built up more than that 6-liter was. So I'm assuming, pretty confident that this is actually going to make more power than that 6-liter would have if we just left it the way it was. So I've got this transmission that can go on the back of that motor, and it would be perfectly fine. Get the right flywheel or flex plate and call it a day. This is option number 2. This would be a little bit more difficult, a little bit more money and things to figure out. So I have a video of this motor already on the channel of getting it dressed out and put on that run stand, and you can hear what it sounds like. I mean, this is a nasty motor. This is a Blueprint Engines, a 396 cubic inch small block that dynos out at like 500 some odd horsepower or something. I mean, just nasty. It's very much dressed up to look old, but it has a Holley universal multi-port fuel injection system on it. Obviously pretty accessory drive. So it is set up fully for modern fuel injection and all that kind of stuff. And obviously this looks more period correct than the LS does, but I cannot figure out for the life of me. Hopefully one of you watching this video can help me out. If I were to want to put an LS-based 4L80E transmission against a small block Chevrolet, what in the world do I need? I have seen torque converters. I can't find like a flex plate that would just go up and adapt, because I think if it was a small block Chevy 4L80, I would get like a, I don't know, a Turbo 400 flex plate. I'm guessing. I don't know. If somebody can give me some links or guide me to figure out how to put this LS 4L80E against a small block Chevrolet, this is also an option. So the default is the LS. If I can figure this out, this is an option as well. Lastly, a quick walkthrough of the parts hoard. Let me see if I can bring this camera out a little bit. There we go. So there's a mix of 240 and other parts in here, but a lot of parts from the original Chevelle that were stripped and organized. I've got all of our original parts group stuff lying all over the place. Vintage Air, American Auto Wire. I mean, just lots of stuff. And then the shelves overhead. There's some parts in the other shop. We've got a bunch of powder-coated front end pieces that I could use depending on how far I go into fixing up the other one. We've got an SS hood that we thought about putting on just for fun. Yeah, obviously the doors, having the frames versus the new sports sedan that doesn't have any of this stuff. But doing this, like I said, we've got all these extra body parts. So even though these have frames on them, you know, God forbid somebody backs into the side of the car and dents one of the doors. This is almost impossible to find. You can cut the frame off here, and it's basically the exact same door. Same thing with the B-pillar structure. Even though it doesn't come above the doors, the bottom section, pretty sure, is the same as the sports sedan. So not 100% the same, but close enough to where they can be used as collision repair parts. So I'm telling you guys what, this has been extraordinarily stressful, more stressful than it should have been. This never should have gotten to this point, but life is one big learning experience. You never stop learning. It is very, very important to choose the people that you work with carefully. I mean that in more ways than one. And just learn from bad experiences and go forward with your best foot, I guess. So anyway, I think that's going to just about wrap it up for now. Well, everyone, that's going to wrap it up for this video. I would say I hope you enjoyed, but some of you probably didn't. I'm really looking forward to actually doing justice to this project, even though we had to change direction and basically start from scratch. But I know I'm going to feel a lot better about it. My wife's going to feel a lot better about it. I can get this car done so much faster because we don't have to do all the craziness that we were trying to do with the other car. I mean, this is a nice car just how it is. We don't have to paint this car if we don't want to. I don't have to completely blow this car apart if I don't have to. So that's really comforting at the end of the day, because, you know, it just is. So anyway, I will keep you guys up to date. Like I said, this will be later on. I do have the in-depth review coming up soon. So if you're not following my social platforms, definitely give those a follow. And yeah, thank you guys again. We'll talk soon. Take care.